not doing all evil, cultivating good, purifying one's mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. Welcome to the channel, Good Buddhism. Today, we are diving into a fundamental question. What is Buddhism really about? Buddhism is about the human mind realizing ultimate truth through right practice to overcome suffering based on faith and belief. This is reflected in the story of the Buddha who initiated Buddhism. As we know, Buddhism goes back to the teachings of a real person, Gautama Siddhartha. The historical Buddha lived in ancient Nepal and India about 2,500 years ago. But the Buddha wasn't always the Buddha as we know him now. He was born a prince in a small kingdom. He was born into a life of privilege and abundance. At one point, he was even a party boy in his youth. Thankfully, he wasn't spoiled by all the luxury. The prince didn't take everything for granted. As the future king, he watched his people closely and saw their suffering. This brought on a huge existential crisis for him. The prince felt drawn to become a spiritual seeker, a wandering ascetic, to find a real solution to human suffering. But as we can imagine, his duty and responsibility as the future king made it hard for him to leave the palace. It took years before he finally left home to become a wandering ascetic. Eventually, when his first son was born, the prince left the palace with the faith that the human mind could reach ultimate truth and overcome suffering. Then he spent 6 years trying to find ultimate truth. He was unwavering and steadfast in his effort to overcome human suffering through intense effort and rigorous practice. Finally, he found the right path to his goal through the right practice, which he later called the middle way. His mind penetrated and understood everything as it truly is. Gautama Siddhartha became a Buddha. His mind directly knew ultimate truth and attained supreme enlightenment. His enlightenment brought true knowledge and perfect vision, by which he went beyond suffering and reached everlasting happiness. The Buddha called this happiness brought by enlightenment nirvana. And then he shared his wisdom with the world for the happiness of all sentient beings. This is the story of how a prince from a small ancient kingdom became a Buddha, who is the blessed one, worthy one, and the highest enlightened one. And this is the story of how Buddhism began and came to be shared with us today. I have just briefly summarized the Buddha's life, from which we can glean what Buddhism is really about. As we see in the life of the historical Buddha, Buddhism is about the human mind realizing ultimate truth through right practice to go beyond suffering based on faith and belief. Buddhism is about our minds directly knowing the truth through right practice to attain everlasting happiness based on faith and belief. In this way, Buddhism is about being both true and useful. After his enlightenment, the Buddha shared his true knowledge and perfect vision to help people overcome suffering. In his first teaching especially, he did set the foundation for all his future teachings by presenting the essence of Buddhism. His first teaching includes the middle way, the Noble Eightfold Path, and the Four Noble Truths. These teachings were the cornerstone of all the teachings the Buddha later gave the people. Briefly, the teaching of the middle way is about the fundamental principle behind all Buddhist practices. The Noble Eightfold Path explains all of the specific practices that must be undertaken to attain enlightenment. The Four Noble Truths show the final outcome and the essence of the Buddha's enlightenment. After his first teaching, he continued to offer countless and endless teaching for the happiness of the world until his last breath. The Buddha himself called his teaching Dhamma or Dharma. On hearing Dharma, many people put their faith in the Buddha and his teachings. They believed that their minds could also attain enlightenment and resolve their own suffering. So they too pursued ultimate truth and happiness through the paths opened by the Buddha. Many of his disciples and followers also came to know the truth and go beyond suffering. These people became the Sangha, the noble community of Buddhism. In this way, the Sangha demonstrated that enlightenment was real and true. For those who wanted to follow the Buddha after hearing his teaching, the Buddha asked them to have faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. These are collectively called the three jewels. The Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha are the primary objects of Buddhist faith. The actual expression of Buddhist faith is in the three refuges. Those who took refuge in the three jewels passed down the teachings of the historical Buddha. With a faith and right practice, they pursued enlightenment while helping others find happiness too. Over time, they adapted and developed the Buddha's original teachings to make them relevant for the people living in different times and cultures. The teachings of the Buddha have evolved into Buddhism that now covers a vast range of history and culture. And this is how Buddhism has come down to us and continues to be shared today. Buddhism has endured through history based on faith and belief, which are essential aspects of religion. Gautama Siddhartha could not have become a Buddha without the faith and belief that humans are capable of attaining ultimate truth and happiness. If there were no faith and belief that the human mind could reach ultimate truth and overcome suffering, the prince would not have dared to leave the palace and would never have become a Buddha. And then the Buddha encouraged people to have faith in the three jewels so they could also attain ultimate truth and happiness. With a faith in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, many people have followed the path shown by the Buddha and passed down his teachings through generations to today. Without faith, there would be no Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha, and no Buddhism. In this way, Buddhism has emerged and been sustained by faith, through which people have embraced the true and useful teachings of the Buddha for the happiness of themselves and others. So far we have explored what Buddhism is really about. As we discussed, Buddhism is about the human mind realizing ultimate truth and happiness through right practice based on faith and belief. In this channel, we will explore various Buddhist teachings one by one in a structured and systemic way. By uncovering the wisdom of the Buddha, we will make a good happiness for ourselves and others. I look forward to sharing this journey with you. Thank you for watching and see you next time. I wish you well and truly happy.